Here are 5 details in the Arkham games that expands the lore in the universe that you may have not heard of. Let's start with the first one here. Edward Nigma, the Riddler, still doesn't believe Bruce is Batman even after the events of Arkham Knight. So, after the events of Arkham Knight, Batman's identity is revealed to the entire world to be Bruce Wayne. Who would have thought? Well, after this, the game gives a ton of reactions from different characters about his reveal, one of which is Riddler. After catching Riddler, if you talk to him in his cell, this is one of the dialogues he says to you.
You may have everyone in here fooled with your little Bruce Wayne charade, but not me, Batman. You'll never fool me.
Now, this is very interesting because some people may ask themselves, why would Riddler not believe that Bruce is Batman? And I believe there's a ton of layers to it. Now, still not believing that Batman is Bruce Wayne isn't necessarily a crazy thing. Like, this cop here, for example, thinks it was fake too. He says that it was fake since it was on TV. You can't believe everything you see on TV. Edward, however, as we all know, hates to be wrong and believes himself to be better than everyone else. The truth is that Edward ruled out a long time ago that Batman was Bruce Wayne. If you remember from Arkham Origins, in his hideout, he was trying to figure out who Batman was and couldn't figure it out. It's more than likely he thought of Bruce Wayne at some point but ultimately denied that possibility. If this is the case, then him not believing it's Bruce Wayne makes sense because the Riddler can't fathom being wrong. If it's true that Bruce Wayne is Batman and Riddler ruled that out a long time ago, then it can't be true. Bruce can't be Batman because Riddler believes he can never be wrong. And that adds more to that whole narcissistic personality he's known for. It's very interesting. Or, I could be wrong on all that, and Riddler thinks that Batman revealing his identity is just a big trick that he's too stupid to fall for. Which lines up more with the statement here, he says, because once again, he is better than everyone else. It's really interesting how far he'll go. Bruce could take off his mask right in front of him and he'll likely still say the same thing, that it's a trick. It's just a very subtle piece of dialogue that perfectly encapsulates the Riddler's obsession of always being right, and it's what makes him a very interesting yet dangerous character. Playface in Arkham City. Everyone that's played Arkham City knows about the famous twist in the game where he's disguised as Joker pretty much the entire story. The game, however, gives you a lot of clues throughout the story that hints that the Joker is indeed Clayface in disguise. I'm going to start with getting some of the obvious ones out of the way, such as his fight sequence with Clayface. You can tell it's him and not Joker because if you use detective mode here, he doesn't have a skeletal structure, confirming this is Clayface right off the get-go. Another moment is in the beginning in the Psionics Industries mission. Harley says this to Joker when you go through that section if you listen carefully. Now, here are some more interesting ones. Maybe ones that you didn't know about. If you notice, Joker always refers to Batman as Bats. There may be like 1 or 2 times he says Batman, but he pretty much calls Batman Bats any chance he gets. It's his nickname for him. Now, if you notice, every time Clayface is disguised, he calls Bruce just simply Batman, not Bats.
Surprise! You fell for the old fake Joker gag, Batman. My blood, for example. I wish somebody would. This stuff is killing me.
Why should I care?
Because now there's a teeny little bit of me in you too, Bats.
This is a huge giveaway to people that pick up on that kind of thing. It happens throughout the story. I believe there's only like 1 or 2 instances of Clayface Joker calling Batman Batman, but I think it's just a death screen, so whatever. And also, another very interesting clue that's a little more nuanced is when you go back to Psionics Industries and listen to Joker on the monitor here.
Well, here's the thing. Answers don't give you everlasting satisfaction. Sometimes you need to brace yourself for disappointment. Now think about it. Imagine your favorite TV show. You've been through it all. The ups, the downs, the crazy coincidences. And then bang! They tell you what it's all about. Would you be happy? Does it make sense? How come it all ended in a church?
You can tell that's actually Clayface Joker here, not Joker, because of this reference. Now, what he says here is a reference to the Lost TV show. The show had a real controversial ending. Anyways, Clayface's whole thing is that he loves to be an actor, and his life is heavily involved with that whole industry. So him making that Lost reference is not only pretty cool, but it just fits perfectly with the character of Clayface here. People who don't know this would just think it's a nice little reference to the show, but looking deeper into it, it's another clue to Clayface. I thought this was very interesting the more I looked into it. When they made these clues that alluded to Clayface, Rocksteady made sure that it was in touch with the character, and it's just really cool to see here. So, the Arkham Knight had a ton of resources and tons of money spent to get the army he needed to take on Batman in Gotham City. But there's a really cool detail here that expands his lore and also just the lore of the Arkhamverse. The Arkham Knight used Nth Metal in his plans. Is that how you pronounce it? Is it Nth Metal or Ninth Metal? I honestly don't really know. I don't remember or recall a moment in like a TV show or something where they'd say it. I'm just gonna call it Nth Metal. If it's wrong, f you. Anyways, if you don't know, Nth Metal is an extremely rare metal that's only obtainable from the planet of Thanagar, which is the home planet of Hawkman and Hawkwoman, the DC superheroes that are like Hawk people. If you look at this periodic table here from Ace Chemicals, there's a note that specifically says unknown 115 metal nth. This isn't the 115 from Nazi Zombies, don't worry. This is interesting because if it's unknown, then that means that, well, it's unknown. The general public doesn't know about the material, and perhaps Scarecrow didn't know either. It's here in Ace Chemicals where Scarecrow was producing his toxin, so he probably found out about it after the Arkham Knight, aka Jason Todd, introduced him to it. If it's unknown, then it likely means that Thanagar isn't a really well-known planet to the public. However, the Hawk people must already be on Earth and being heroes, right? Because how else would Jason realistically get his hands on the Nth Metal? And yes, Jason did manage to get his hands on Nth Metal because on this monitor here, we can see how the Cloudburst tank was constructed, and if we zoom in on it, we can see that it legit says the Cloudburst tank is plated with an Nth Metal Interion alloy capable of withstanding all conventional munitions fire, including those equipped by the target's mobile weapons, platform, and pursuit vehicle. Basically, Jason got the Nth Metal to counter the Batmobile's offensive capabilities, which is a very neat detail. Shows how much effort Jason put in to try and stop Batman at every turn he can think of. But it also makes you think how Jason got his hands on Nth Metal. Like, I don't think it's something available even on the black market or something. How I believed he got it was maybe on what Batman taught him. It wouldn't be far-fetched to assume that Batman knows about this kind of stuff like Nth Metal and things like Kryptonite maybe. Jason was probably shown all of this by Batman as his time as Robin, and perhaps used that knowledge to find a way to get the Nth Metal alloy. It's a very interesting detail, and if it's an unknown metal, then that means that the general public, like I said, doesn't know about its origins or what it can kind of do or how durable it is. But Jason did. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble of getting it. It's a very interesting detail. Shows us that people like Hawkman, Hawkwoman, Hawkgirl all exist and are probably already superheroes by the time Arkham Knight has rolled around. So, Gotham, not surprising to anyone, is home to many different crime families and just criminals in general. In Batman Arkham Origins at GCPD, the listed different crime families are listed and are actually ranked from like least dangerous to most dangerous, basically put in tiers, expanding the lore of Gotham when Batman was first starting out. And some of these crime families are well known, others not so much. Let's just break it down. So as we see here, they're all broken down into different tiers, like I said. Tier 1 is actually the mass vigilante, which is obviously Batman. Batman at this point was considered a full-on criminal to Gotham, and it was before him and Gordon became allies and all that. It's pretty cool to see he's the biggest threat though. Tier 2 has a bunch of famous crime families, one of which is Black Mask. Makes sense as he's the game's quote-unquote main bad guy, right? It's really interesting to see how Black Mask has fallen from grace though, seeing as in this game, he started off as someone everyone thought of as a threat, but at the end of the Arkham series, he was honestly just kind of taken as a joke and kind of a loser. How the mighty have fallen, right? Next in the tier, you got the Falcones and Maronis. Interesting that at the end of it all, the Falcones were revealed to Arkham City to have left Gotham and go to Bloodhaven. The Maronis and Falcones met up at a restaurant to talk about how to finally end the war between themselves, but it turned out to be an ambush by the Falcons. The Falcons surrounded the building and opened fire, killing most of the Maronies, including their leadership. The rest of the Maronies were incarcerated in Arkham City, while the Falcons, like I said, fled to Bloodhaven like a bunch of pussies. Interesting, we never see the Maronies in Arkham City though. Tier 3, we have the Penguin, which is fair, but also interesting. Although Penguin wasn't as big as a gangster yet, he pulled off some pretty big heists. In his office in the Final Offer ship, you can see a list of places he stole from, including Queen Industries, Amertech, and LexCorp, all big companies in the DC universe. We know he was at least successful at stealing from Queen Industries since we see a shipping crate with the Queen Industries logo on it. It's pretty interesting. Next on Tier 3 is Lou Moxon. Long story short, Lou Moxon is the mob boss who hired Joe Chill. And for those that don't know, Joe Chill is the person that killed Bruce Wayne's parents. So this kind of confirms Joe Chill killed Bruce's parents in the Arkhamverse, if anyone had doubts. Next on Tier 3 is Rupert Thorne. Rupert Thorne was a recurring antagonist in the Batman animated series, the best Batman TV show to ever exist, but was introduced in minor roles in the comics before that. The dude was just a corrupt politician from what I remember. In that show, he was responsible for transforming Harvey into Two-Face. However, Two-Face has a different origin in the Arkham series. Next at Tier 4, we have the Sullivan crime family. Basically a group of Irish assassins that attempted to kill Harvey Dent, but they failed. They aren't very notable characters. In the Long Halloween comic book though, they're all killed by Holiday, so they're just pretty much death fodder, essentially. They likely died in this universe's Long Halloween too. Speaking of which, let me know if you want to see a video like that. I'm interested in doing the Arkham Long Halloween at some point, so yeah, just let me know. Next on Tier 4 is the Skeevers family, which references, I think, a couple characters. First off, there's Jefferson Skeevers, who was just a minor character that was a drug dealer in Batman Year 1, my favorite animated Batman film. And it makes sense that he's here too, because this game was also kind of like Batman's origin, right? But it also references Eddie Skeevers, a criminal and right-hand man of Tony Zuko. Tony Zuko is the next person on the list, and Tony Zuko is the criminal that was responsible for the death of the Graysons. The Flying Graysons, aka Dick Grayson's parents. He's a big enough crime boss to be put on the list, and it's likely not long after the game that Dick Grayson's parents are killed, considering it's around this time that Batman usually, adopts Dick Grayson. And finally on the list is Gentleman Jim Jansen. Now this is a deep cut, very, very minor character that was a smuggler that appeared in this old Batman comic called Batman the Rainbow Creature. I don't know why they reference this person of all people, but I mean, I guess it's still pretty cool. It's just really random. But yeah, that's who Gentleman Jim Jansen is. This list here expands a lot about the lore of the criminals in Gotham, and I decided to put it in here because I think it's really cool that a lot of these characters we see here, we see what becomes of them and what their end result is. It really adds a whole new layer to them. It shows a different perspective. A lot of these people fell from grace, a lot of them rose to power, like Penguin. It's just really cool to see. The final one, and I think is the most interesting, Batman has fought Darkseid in the Arkham universe. Yes. Well, maybe not yet at the point of Arkham Knight, but perhaps after, and let me explain. So, Arkham Knight, this island right here, Miagani Island. Cool island, right? It's my favorite. But do you ever think about what the origin of it is? Well, let me tell you. The origin of Miagani Island originates from this comic by Grant Morrison, The Return of Bruce Wayne. The main gist of this comic is that Batman goes back in time to different time periods and basically has a lot of adventures. One of the time periods he goes to is the prehistoric era, where he meets a tribe called the Miagani tribe, some of Gotham's earliest descendants. Anyways, long story short, because the rest of the story isn't really a factor here, Batman helps the Miagani tribe with an issue they were having with Vandal Savage, a DC villain. In doing so, the Miagani tribe started worshipping bats, and they eventually had descendants that eventually gave birth to Bruce Wayne. Crazy, right? It's like a bootstrap paradox. To further support that this is how it also goes down in the Arkham universe, the Riddler says this about Miagani Island, basically confirming it. Check it out.
There are riddles to be solved on Miagani Island, Batman, which is named for the tribe who lived in Gotham in pre-colonial times. They worshipped bats, Worship idiots.
Okay, so cool. How does this tie into Darkseid? Well, the reason Batman went back in time in the first place is because of a battle he had with Darkseid. The way Bruce went back in time was when he confronted Darkseid with a weapon called the Radion Bullet. He threatened Darkseid that he would shoot it at him, and Darkseid accepted his challenge, basically. And basically what ended up happening was that Darkseid fired his Omega beams at Batman, and Batman shot the gun at the same time. The gun mortally wounded Darkseid, but Darkseid's Omega beams, through comic book magic, didn't kill Batman when it hit him. Instead, it made him travel through time and space, which is what led to the Migani story I was telling you about. If I recall, I think Darkseid intentionally sent Batman through time instead of killing him, but I don't remember that detail very vividly. That doesn't matter though, because it's not the point. What matters is that this is the origin of Migani Island from the comics. Darkseid takes him to that time period, that's straight up source material, and with what Riddler says about how there was a Migani tribe and how they worship bats, I have to assume that the story plays out the same in the Arkhamverse as well. Batman will fight Darkseid, and he will be taken back in time for these events to occur. I say will because while it could have happened before Arkham Knight, I just kind of doubt it. It seems like an event that will happen after the fact. We'll learn more about Batman and his adventures in the Justice League and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which comes out in like a few weeks at the time of this video, which I'm really excited about. And maybe they'll mention Darkseid, maybe not. My bet is on they won't, because he's like the poster boy of big bads in the DC universe, right? And I feel like they might save him for a potential Justice League game, since James Gunn confirmed there will be more Arkhamverse games after Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I don't know how James Gunn ties into that, but I guess he does. I guess he has that pull. So I'm just going to take his word for it, whatever. But yeah, Darkseid and Batman will interact. Yeah, you thought the thumbnail was clickbait, huh? Well, you were wrong, and you should follow my Twitter as punishment. But yeah, it's just really cool to think about. And maybe some people can't see Arkham Batman fighting Darkseid, but the world will be expanded with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, so anything's possible. And those are 5 lore details in the Arkham games, or whatever you want to call it, I guess, in the Arkham series. Yeah, let me know if this is something you enjoyed, and if I should do more. Please support the video in any way you can, I'd really appreciate it. Please follow me on Twitter, I'm trying to get 1,000 followers, that's my 2024 goal. And I'll see you on the next video. Stay safe, and peace.